Well, g'day everyone and welcome back to this video. Appreciate you watching as always. Now this one is going to be the lead-up video to the 9th annual Greg Whitehead Fishing Challenge for 2024. The Greg Whitehead Fishing Challenge, for those who don't know, and if you're not actually competing in the challenge, stick around because I am going to go through how Burrinjuck fishes through the middle to the end of August. So there will be some information in here for everybody, but it is more based and aimed towards those that are fishing the comp, especially those who don't have a lot of experience at Burrinjuck or a lot of experience in freshwater fishing in general. They might be coming along to the lake for the first time. And so I'm going to run through some very basic tips for those people. And later on in the video, we're going to get into some more technical stuff for those who may be a little bit more familiar and want to be at the pointy end of the leaderboard. Before I get into the actual fishing side of things, I just want to touch on a little bit of clothing and equipment that I recommend. August can be absolutely freezing up at Burrinjuck, so there's a couple of things that you need to do a little bit differently if you haven't fished up there in the winter time before. The first one is a life jacket. Each and every person out on the boat needs to be wearing a life jacket at all times. Very, very important. The water temp at the moment is about 10 to 11 degrees. Absolutely freezing. If you go in the middle of the main basin and there's no one around to pull you out, you are probably going to be hypothermic and have a very high risk of not making it back to the shore, especially if you're not wearing a life jacket. You're going to be buggered. As soon as you hit that freezing cold water, you just cannot swim. So that is super, super important. Another thing, have a set of gloves on board for those chasing cod, because those raspies on those teeth can really chafe you. Now, I know some guys like to use lip grippers. I don't. I actually don't recommend them. I don't think they're very good for the fish. They're a very cheap Gorilla Grip gloves, but they are just thick enough to stop you from getting chafed up by those cod of all sizes. Of course, you can wear all different sizes gloves. On your boat, you'll also want a pair of pliers for removing hooks. Pair of side cutters. Now, these are a King Chrome 2 something or other. So basically they've got a mechanical advantage through the hinge here, where whatever pressure you exert on that handle there, it's actually putting 2 times the pressure on the jaws, which makes them really, really handy to be able to cut through those big heavy gauge hooks if you manage to get one in you, or if there's one in the fish that you can't get out, if it's back in behind a gill raker or something like that. So that way you can cut it off, pull it out, clear the rest of the treble out of the road. So there's those couple of bits. Clothing wise, thermals, highly recommend thermals, Uggies on the boat, merino socks, and also gloves for keeping your hands warm. I have been using a pair of possum / merino gloves. They're a blend of possum fur and merino wool, and they are really, really warm. Yes, your fingertips are still exposed, but I find that it sort of keeps the palms of your hands quite warm, and that's enough to take the edge off, I find. So you want to have thermals, you want to have some good jackets, some good outer layers, waterproof outer layers as well if you're going to be out there in the rain. And let's face it, wintertime can be pretty nasty, and if you really want to be competitive, there is a chance you're probably going to have to fish in some pretty ordinary conditions. I know that we certainly have had to do that in previous years. So that's that. On to the fishing side of things. Now, I have been out doing a little bit of cod fishing of late, and I have been doing reasonably well. It's been really, really good. The fish are happy at the right time, of course, which, as you know, in this competition, we won't be able to pick the weather, the timing for the moon and all that sort of stuff. But we will be able to pick the time when we have a moon above or a moon below, a moon rise or a moon set. I do recommend you keep an eye on when those times are and make sure that you are fishing during those times if they are inside that 6:30 to 3:30 bracket. Speaking of which, that 6:30 to 8:30 period in the morning sessions is going to be your best chance of hooking and landing a proper big Murray cod up there. The early mornings are probably my favourite time to fish, just as you get that first little bit of light on the water for the next hour or so. I find the fish can be really, really shallow. They are open to every different angler, whether you're running live sonar, no sonar, doesn't sort of matter. Get up there and fish those really shallow edges. The fish push right up there, right on that first twinkle of daylight, feeding on carp and redfin that are basically hiding up there waiting to come back off those edges and get about their day. They'll push up really shallow in a metre or less of water. 1, 2, 3 metres of water is a really key zone. Get out there early. If you want to catch a big cod or any cod, get out there first thing in the morning and have a good crack at them. Come back and cook your breakfast at 9 or 10 o'clock, but make sure if you're fair dinkum about catching a big cod, that you are going to be out there early in the morning. Now when you do get out there to chase those big cod first thing in the morning, we'll run through a couple of options for what you might cast at them. So the first one I've got here is, well, we'll look at this one. This is the Ignite 220 Fury, and that's how they come in the packer like that. They are a line through lure, excuse the noise. So they come with, get that over there. All right, obviously you've got your big plastic, 220 mil long. They also come with a weight. I don't know if that's going to focus on that. All right, and that weight pushes up in through there, in through the back of the lure. You feed the line through the nose, through the weight, and onto that nice big sharp 2.0 hook, and that hook will sit there just like that. Now believe it or not, that is actually the most important hook that you can put on that lure. Yes, I will catch fish on jig-headed setups with a big main hook sitting out the top here. Very, very rarely do they get pinned just by the tail hook. They always get pinned on that big hook. Even when we rig them like that, as a line through with 2 hooks, you can see that hook there? It's in exactly the same spot as it would be if you fish it just out of the packet, just underneath the chin there. That hook there is what always pins them. I got a 1.16 metre on that the other night, and it was pinned on that hook right there. So they are a really, really good option. Of course, there are other brands out there as well, and probably my other favourite is the 8-inch cast Prodigy. That is that one there. They have a massive, big, floppy tail. They will work. That tail will work on the slowest of rolls. This one here, you can see I've rigged up on a 7.0 jig head. That is a 5/8 nitro jig head, that one, and it has the wire loop underneath there, and that's where I attach, there we are again, that front swinging treble. Now, before I go any further on that, I will put a note in here. If you are new to casting these style of lures, big plastics and things, you absolutely must not let that lure sink down and hit the bottom. 1, you don't need to, and 2, you're going to get snagged all the time because that is very, very exposed. It hangs right at the bottom of the lure. It's going to get hung up on trees, sticks, lay down logs, rocks, all sorts of stuff. You don't need to fish them deep. Those Murray cod in that early morning time are going to be sitting in 1 to 3 metres of water. If that lure is running 2 foot below the surface, it is going to be deep enough if you're fishing those shallow edges. Cast it right up in against the bank and slowly roll it out. Don't let it hit the bottom. That head there can actually be too heavy at times, which is why we run the line through. And also, if you're running just the single line through like that, all right, you can run it with just a small piece of that weight. You can cut it in half with a hacksaw. I do that a lot. I don't have one here. Oh, there's one turned it up in the box there. Up on there. God, that is a mess. Anyway, it doesn't really matter. Basically, cut the lead in half, cut it into a quarter, and just stick a little bit of lead in there just to keep the nose down, keep that lure stabilised. You don't want a lot of weight because you don't want the lure sinking too deep. Murray cod will always eat from below. So they're going to come up behind that lure, they're going to shape up to it like that, and they're going to hit it at the head section like that, and the lure rolls into the cod's mouth and gone, right? They don't nip the tail, they don't eat from here, they always eat on that angle there, right? So you can imagine the cod's mouth comes up like that, bang, in his gob, gone. Swing hard. If you get belted on a big plastic, big swim boat, whatever it is, swing hard because those big fish have got really, really bony mouths. Now, other option is especially for people who aren't used to throwing big swim baits, is to run a slimline swim bait, something like that. That is a Jackal Garnier. It has a 1/4 ounce weight swinging off the chin there at the moment. 1/4 ounce is more than enough. In fact, you can run them early morning without any weight at all. Another option, ooh, I nearly got stuck by that hook. Another option is the Jackson's Primal. Now that is probably a little bit better, a little bit more economical bait, but they absolutely do work. I've caught multiple fish on those up at Burrinjuck. So basically, it doesn't sort of matter brand specific. You do want them built fairly strong, but that one there is a Garnier, and that one there is your Jackson's Primal. Slimline swim baits, really easy to cast. You don't need specific big swim bait rods to throw them. When you step up to something like that, which is a bull shad, a 9-inch bull shad in a slow sink, you are going to start running into trouble if you're not running a heavy rod, a decent swim bait rod, because those things are fairly weighty. They take a fair bit to cast, but they do work. You can throw them on a big rod, throw them a long way. Again, you can throw them right up in the shallow without any weight and just roll them straight out across the tops of the trees and things like that. Speaking of trees, trees are a great fish holding structure for all species in Burrinjuck, whether they be cod, redfin or golden perch. So any area where there is some standing trees is going to be a good area to target. Of course, they do also hang on the rocky walls, and they'll basically push, the big cod will push out of those trees during the dark to feed up on the edges near the trees. So first thing in the morning, get to a bank where there's some trees nearby, get to the bank just near those trees or a little bay or something like that nearby and fish that area first. Then you can pull back and start fishing some standing timber. And yes, you still will catch fish doing that, because sometimes those fish don't get enough food, they don't get enough tucker during the morning or during the night, and they will still take the opportunity. If a lure rolls over their head, they will still take the opportunity to feed. So that is an option, and that is, you know, a good fish holding area. One more thing to mention is that is a cast Prodigy there, and that's actually on a BKK harness. I don't have a packet here for it, but that is another option to just buy the harness all done up like that. It's got instructions of how to install it, and you can get them rigged up that way. If you do want to see how we rig up those 220 Furies with the double hooks there in the line through setup, which is my go-to winter setup, we do have a full suite of rigging videos inside the Social Fishing membership. Go and check that membership out. It is absolutely jam-packed with so much information, probably everything you would need to know that I can't go through today because I literally do not have time, because there is so much information in that membership. Everything you need to know is in there to be able to catch a fish out of Burrinjuck in August, especially those big cod. We have made so much content in there. If you don't want to sign up as a member, go in, sign up as a free membership there. There's a free section, there's a free member. Jump onto that, check out, there's some mini-series courses there, some information for you, check it out. And if you want to get into it, if you want to get right into learning your freshwater fishing, I do suggest jump on, become a yearly member, and you'll get access to the entire site, which includes full fishing maps of Burrinjuck, which show you all the spots that I fish, all the spots of where cod congregate, where the yellows come out from, and also where the redfin schools are going to be. So make sure you go and check that out. That's probably going to cover the basics for Murray cod. If you are fishing for cod during the day, of course you can try and trial one out from, say, along a rocky bank or in between the standing timber. It's probably not my winter go-to. I'd probably much prefer to cast, because those big fish can be sitting quite high and they can be very spooky. So you want to be casting nice big long casts past the structure and rolling those lures through nice and slow. Running a boat over the top of those big fish, there is a chance you are going to spook them. So we'll jump into golden perch now. There are a few sort of techniques that I've been working on the last few years at Burrinjuck, and one of those has been using suspending hard bodies jerk baits like this one here. That is a Berkeley Jerk 90. Yes, it is 90 millimeters long, but the golden perch absolutely smash them. You can also use things like the 79 Squirrel from Jackal. they're a suspending hard body. Basically, you can twitch them down over a tree, let them sit in amongst that tree, and then give them a really jerky sort of a twitch out, and they absolutely jam them. Now that is something that will work if we get some nice sunny weather. Those fish will push up high in the crowns of those trees looking for a bit of warmth as the sun starts to penetrate through. Golden perch for me in winter time is more or less, hey dogger, you right Till? Golden perch for me is more or less a sort of a late morning into the early afternoon type of thing when the water is at its warmest. They really do like the warmer water. So if we do get some nice sunny weather, they are going to be reasonably active even though it is August and the water temps are cold. They are like a coiled spring getting ready to pounce basically. They really want to get into feeding coming into spring. So jerk baits are one thing that you can use. If you want to shake a rocky edge, that is an option also. I caught probably one of my best looking golden perch in last year's comp by shaking I think it was a Xeric fish trap. I think they're 95mm long. But yeah, so you've got the fish traps, you've got also your mask vibes as well. Basically throw them in nice and shallow on a rocky edge that gets sun for the most part of the day. So you don't want a rocky edge in the shade, you want somewhere in the sun where the sun's going to be hitting onto those rocks and warming up those shallow edges. One, the fish are going to feel that sort of warmth in the water, and because the bait is going to congregate along those rocky shorelines because of the warmth. Everything's going to be chasing warmth as we start to transition into springtime. So soft vibes are a good option if you want to cast an edge. Probably the most reliable option is to fish a Berkeley 3-inch gulp plastic grub. They call them a 3-inch minnow grub. That is the watermelon colour, which is a great colour. Black is probably the one that stands out most of all. You generally just fish them on a 1/4 ounce jig head. Now, the approach can be very different depending on whether you are obviously running live technology or whether you're running a really good down or sonar or side scan on your boat. If you are running a really good side or down, make sure you cruise along the tops of the trees and sound out where those fish are sitting. And then mark them up and just do the rounds. Mark that tree, bang, drop down 5-10 drops, roll them up, just a really slow roll. The tail will work, remembering the water's cold, and so the bait's not going to be moving on that fast, therefore your bait doesn't want to move very fast either. It will be coming up through the trees, they will turn, follow and eat it. Don't pause it, just keep it sort of just rolling through. The other option is you can basically send it down, say 5, 8 metres, 10 metres, depending on what depth you're fishing in, and then you basically lift your rod and tap the butt like that. All right, all the way up, and then wind down, and then do it again. Just like that, and do it again. If you are running forward-facing sonar or live tech, you are going to be able to see the fish and your lure. Now, I do have a video all about turning those follows into fish when it comes to using live tech and chasing golden perch, so make sure you go and check that one out. But basically, once they start to come over and get close to it, make sure you start moving that lure away. Really, really important. So you can fish them either way, whether you're using live tech or not, through the standing trees. That is probably the most reliable combo that you can get. I run those on a 2 to 4 kilo 7-foot spin stick. I run somewhere between 6 and 10 pound braided line with about an 8 or a 10 pound leader, depending on how finicky they are and what sort of country I'm fishing in. If it's really, really thick timber or spindly stuff, I'll go up to a 10. If they're being really, really fussy, I can actually drop that down to a 6 pound leader. It does sometimes help to get an extra bite, but you do run the risk of being snapped off by a bigger fish. So that's the golden perch. Areas to target those fish, again, standing timber is the number one, but don't discount those rocky banks. You can sometimes get some really hot bites in August, particularly if we get a run of good sort of warm sunny weather. If you fish on those sunset rocky banks. If you're not someone who gets up early chasing cod, get out there at 10 o'clock, fish right through till the afternoon. Session finishes at 3:30. That's going to be the best time to chase them. It's not best to target those fish first thing in the morning, I usually find. especially in winter, because they need that heat to come into the water throughout the day to be able to get them sort of fired up and get them moving. So I generally find that late morning into the early afternoon is the better time to target them. And of course the last species on the card is redfin perch. Now redfin are fairly prolific throughout the entire lake. They can be caught on a range of different techniques, plastics, soft vibes, hard vibes, blades. They'll eat pretty much everything, but they will tend to be picky on different days. And so sometimes you'll have to change up your colours. They are a fish that will shy away from certain colours. If I'm fishing plastics, they tend to be white with a pink or a chartreuse sort of a highlight on them in a paddle or a grub tail. I don't tend to have as much luck on a darker coloured plastic with redfin. They tend to like something a little bit lighter. Of course your soft vibes will also work. Trolling is probably one of the most effective ways of getting connected to a redfin. They are a very aggressive feeder and do respond well to a trolled lure. Anything deep diving in say 50 to 70 mil long, things like your stuckies, your AC invaders, things like that, they get down nice and deep. Trolling through in 6 or 8 metres of water, it does depend on the weather and things like that when we get up there and what the conditions are like as to where they will sit along the bank. Trolling is probably the most effective way of getting connected to a redfin. And it's a pretty relaxed way to do it. If you've got kids on board, they can be really good fun. That's just about going to do it for us today, guys. I know that's probably been a little bit long, but there is just so much I could go through. There is so much more to it out there, to be totally honest. I could probably sit here all day and talk about it. Just to wrap things up, those there are probably my two sort of go-to options, not necessarily the colour. Colour's not a huge thing for me, but a nice big soft plastic with a big paddle tail, 220 Fury, that is an 8-inch cast prodigy. Like I said, very, very important to have that swinging hook. Fish them nice and high in the water column, fish them up shallow, and that's going to be a really good option. If you are fishing for cod during the day, I'd probably lean something towards a smaller, slightly smaller profile plastic. You could even run a 6-inch version of the cast. Gannies would still be an option. You probably just want to fish them a little bit deeper, so I probably wouldn't run one like that with a harness on it during the day. I'd probably tend to go more for a jig head during the day and fish that a little bit wider of the bank, a little bit deeper, or in between the standing timber. Golden perch, late mornings, right into the afternoon, standing trees again, or if we get sun, rocky edges is going to be the go. Gulp grubs, soft vibes, they're probably my two picks for August. And then when it comes to the redfin, we would probably try and sound them. If we can't sound them, we will actually troll for them, find a redfin. If we manage to mark them up on the trees, we'll throw some plastics down or a soft fibre or a blade or something like that. If we can't, we're having trouble with them, we'll probably just troll around with probably a stuckies in a red or a purple or a black or something like that. Now, of course, if there is anything else you want to know about, if there's anything you've seen here today or you need me to expand on a little bit more information, make sure you drop a question in the comments below. Give us a like and a thumbs up as well. That would be really, really appreciated. I honestly could go on about different options and different varieties of techniques here all day. So if there is something specific that you think you might want to try or want some more information on, I am here to help. I am more than happy to try and get every single one of you onto a fish, and it could be the fish of a lifetime, especially if you're chasing those big cod. So make sure you do drop those comments in the comment section below. And just one more thing, guys, actually before I go. Now, if you are running live technology, I do have some videos on the channel in regards to using live tech, some sessions, also some technique-y stuff, a little bit of do's and don'ts and things like that. Probably the number one for your yellow belly is if you get a fish nosing up to your plastic or your lure, do not stop it, keep it moving. Force them to make a decision whether they're going to eat it or not. Don't pause it and think they're just going to eat it. They will sometimes, but it is reasonably rare that they will. A lot of the time they'll get too good a look at it and they'll just swim away. Makes them very hard to sort of get tempted back into having another look because they've already had a pretty good look and gone, you know what, something's not quite right, I'm not going to eat that. When it comes to chasing big cod with live tech, don't get stuck chasing the one fish for an hour. All right? Get a good cast or two with a big plastic or a swim bait or something over the top of the fish. Don't run it into him. Don't put it below him. It's got to be over the top. Roll it through nice and slow. Right? If he turns, look, just keep rolling. I generally don't tend to speed up or slow down, but I do know some guys who will actually slow down their retrieve and have been getting jammed that way. Me, I actually go the other way. I actually tend to slightly, you right there, dog? Slightly speed up my retrieve, which basically, again, gives the cod no option. He's either going to miss out or he's going to eat it. So, as a rule, just keep it rolling at the same pace. All right, just a nice slow roll. These tails will work on a very, very slow roll. Just the presence of that in the water is enough for a fish to sort of tail it and eat it. They will see those baits, hear those baits, feel them baits from a very, very long distance away. You do not have to necessarily have that right on top of their nose the first cast. I actually tend to keep them about a metre above the first time I run a lure over the top of them. And like I said, if they deny it, okay, rightio, your mate might have a garnier. Throw the garnier over it, rightio. That doesn't work. The other mate or the other rod in the boat has got a big swim bait. Put that over the top of them. If that fish doesn't eat any of those, yes, there is going to be times when you can get them to eventually eat, but I tend to move on. Get onto a more active fish. I kind of think of it as get more lures over more fish more often. Rather than pestering the one fish for half an hour, going around and around circles, chances are you've probably spooked another fish or two in the meantime. Just move on. He's either fed, he knows your boat's there, he knows the lure's not real, one or the other, he's onto you, right? Which is another good reminder, keep it bloody quiet, all right? Whisper to your mates. It's only early in the morning, there's hardly any sound out there. Keep everything low key. Tread lightly on your boat. Don't drop your rod butts against the bottom of the boat. That is an absolute killer. Hatches. Bang! Do not slam your hatches. I absolutely up my kids when they slam a hatch when we're out there chasing big cod because that water resonates through for a mile. And although it doesn't look like a fish is spooked, he will know that something's not right. Okay, these fish do get a fair bit of pressure through the winter time. If they know of a boat presence there, they are learning not to feed, basically. They'll know that somebody's there and they won't chew. So that's really, really important, which is why I wear Ugg boots, why you'll hear me whispering in the boat, keeping things all nice and quiet, no stomping around, I'm not yelling, things like that. Don't burn across another boat. If you come across a boat fishing an edge, don't burn on the petrol right past him. Make your way around as wide as you can. If one guy's on live tech, he's on a fish, and you're searching for a fish, or if you're just casting, don't blow across in front of him, even if it is under the electric motor. Go around him. Do yourself a favour. Use a bit of courtesy, okay? Go around a little bit wider. You'd be surprised you might just be paid off with a fish if you're a little bit kind to your fellow anglers. I know it sounds super simple, but I do see it out there where it gets a little bit shitty, where blokes are sort of, just not considering giving the other anglers a bit of space. I'm a big advocate for sort of doing the right thing by people, keeping out of each other's fishing zone. So, keep it friendly, of course. It's a flaming charity comp at the end of the day. So we're all out there to actually not win a prize. We're out there to enjoy each other's company. Of course, there are some absolutely fantastic prizes for this comp, don't get me wrong. But we're actually all out there to get together, socialise, commemorate the loss of a good mate of the competition, which is where it all started from, but also to raise money for a really, really good cause, which is the Mark Hughes Foundation. That's enough for me, guys. Like I said, thanks again for watching. Really appreciate it. And if you do have any questions, make sure you drop them in the comments below.